I'll come to your question sometime between now and the end of my 5 to 7 minutes on how I define leadership. I'm here because I realized a couple of years ago my life purpose was about helping putting the heart back into business. And I say back because if you look at the old Quaker businesses, they were incredibly heartful. I mean, Joseph Rowntree invented the pension and the staff canteen, and he built schools and cottages for his employees. And he did that because he thought that was good business. That actually, if your workforce were happy, taken care of, in that instance had a place to sleep, had schools for the children to go to, they would actually be better employees. And we seem to have, over the last period of time, moved to a place where most businesses are only really interested in the next quarter's profits. And that creates a culture which is, cynics can say it's about greed, whatever way you want to describe it, it creates a culture which is not, I believe, very satisfying or fulfilling for anybody. And there's a Gallup study which was done a couple of years ago, 125,000 employees in organizations worldwide, and it measured that 87% of them were emotionally disconnected from their work. 87%. Okay, so most people in the world work in organizations, 87% are emotionally disconnected. So it's almost easy to explain why the world is in a challenging place at the moment, in that with those sort of statistics. And I'm not going to quote you statistics and reports all evening, but the second one I'll quote is a report by the Churchill Foundation earlier this year. And I own a supermarket, which I'll come back to that in a sec, but one of my customers wrote this report where he interviewed 60 CEOs and senior civil servants off the record. In fact, Paul Pullman from Unilever was the only one who would go on the record. Everybody else was off the record. And they were all just saying the pace of change is too much, the demands on us is too much, the old system is broken. There's a system which, kind of promotes based on the, towing the line, and therefore you get people at the top who are just towing the line. So with that negative bit on it, I've come to where I am today. I left the corporate world about 9 years ago when I ran a consultancy because I was fed up with all our clients being so short-term profit focused. And I bought a couple of supermarkets, which is a sort of logical thing to do when you have a midlife crisis. And I can look back now and say I set out to put the heart into the business, but I didn't call it that at the time. I just wanted to run a business that was involved in the community, that was more caring for people and planet, and not just about making money. And I could talk for hours and hours, and have done, about the journey, and I'm not really going to talk too much about that. What I'm going to talk about is my sort of recognition over the last couple of years that this is my life purpose. So I believe that we're all here for a reason. Everybody is here in life for a reason, whether it's to launch your own television company or to whatever it might be, to be a poet. We're all here for a reason, and this is mine. So I formed an organization, and I'm writing a book, not surprisingly, called Putting the Heart Back into Business. And the organization, our mission is that we inspire and support companies to put people and our planet first, and trust profit will follow. Okay, so, and what I've been doing in the supermarket is the last 9 years is doing that. And what I've kind of realized afterwards is that I've done it in a very jumbled, haphazard way. Many of the things I've done haven't worked, have been a complete waste of time. But many of the things I've done have worked. So it's sort of packaging it up to both inspire people at events like this and then support companies doing that. And my most powerful learning is that if a company, well, first of all, it's two. First of all, that being that way in business is actually far more profitable than the old short-term profit focus. Steve Jobs, thank you, my Brian. I was in bed most of the day sick, so I've kind of dragged myself in. So if I'm not one entirely sharp this evening, that kind of explains why. So Steve Jobs had a famous saying, don't chase the money. And so many companies chase the money. And every scientific study you look at, and I can quote you hundreds, say that if you look after people and planet and you care for the environment, longer term you're much, much more profitable. And I've shown that in my supermarket as well. So what I've really been clear on is that for companies to take that approach, the leadership of the company have to be in a place where they are clear on their individual purposes and be in a place where they love doing what they're doing. So we have a process we call heart resuscitation, which we've been running in the supermarket for the last 12 months, which when I founded Heart in Business, I brought people in who were doing work with businesses, and we put it all together. Sort of almost chucked it all at the supermarket and see, okay, because I have a principle, I won't help others do something unless I've done it myself, because I know it works in my business. And what we did is we coached all the leadership team in getting everybody doing what they love doing. And we used some very sophisticated personality analysis called mission alignment, which is a bit like Myers-Briggs, but way, way more sophisticated, where we can tell what people's life purpose is, what drives them, what motivates them, and also about their shadow, that bit of you that people are not very proud of, and that tends to make things a bit ugly around the boardroom table. Because if I'm acting my shadow out, then I'll have a go at Nick for nothing to do with Nick. It's because there's something I'm not really happy with. So you get all that stuff consciously on the table. So in the supermarket now, I only do 4 things. I'm in charge of the vision of the company, I'm in charge of innovation, I'm the custodian of the customer, and I'm the conscience of the company. Okay? I've got a woman who was the finance person who's now the COO. And it sounds, okay, it's a CEO of a supermarket, but we have 80 people, and we turn over £7.5 million a year. So we're a big company. So she has grown massively in stature. She never had the confidence. She has this amazing insight and vision, but she also thought of herself as just the bean counter. And she used to preface everything she said by just. So people didn't take her seriously. And then the guy who runs the store can focus his time on just doing what he loves doing, which is running the store. So it's proven to me, seeing this working, and we're now coaching, we've now trained internal coaches to coach the rest of the team, the remaining 70 odd people in the organization. And I'm seeing the energy levels shift in the store. And Daniel's been in a number of times, but Nick and Daniel came in a few weeks ago. And you can sense the energy levels that are there. People are more committed, they're more dedicated, they're more interested. They feel people are interested in them, so they're going to be interesting in them. We're in a very challenging marketplace. You probably know supermarkets. Okay, everybody's down, except Aldi and Lidl. So we were about 7% down this time last year, which wasn't a million miles out of line with the marketplace. We're now 2% up. So we've flipped our sales 9% in a really competitive, different market, when actually everybody else is going backwards. So it does work. And my final comment is that I'm really clear that what's stopping this work being truly implemented in companies is where leaders are not prepared, or haven't done inner deep work on themselves. Because so many leadership programs start and everybody's very excited by them, and then we go back to the age-old behavior, all the unconscious stuff messing around. So I think I define, to answer your question, leadership as someone who has the courage to be authentically themselves in a position where they can inspire other people to make a difference in the world. And that can be running a company, it can be as a poet, it can be as a filmmaker, it can be any sort of way in life. So that, I think, is within 5 to 7 minutes.
Is that your ego?
The shadow is those bits of us that we maybe not so happy about. So one of my shadows is good boy. Okay, so to get the attention of my mother, who was very busy, my father was traveling all the time working, I'd play the good boy. Okay? And that spilled out into my life, and I only realized that in the last 3 or 4 years. So I'd be always trying to please people, but then I'd resent them for it. So I'd try and please colleagues in work, and then I'd resent them. So the example with Nick earlier, Nick could say something to me, I could get really mad at him. It's not because what he said, it's because I'm really fed up and keep on pleasing him, and he's not fucking grateful, excuse my language. But it's nothing to do with him, it's my shadow playing. And I'm happy, I'm aware of time, but happy in the discussion later on to talk more about shadow, because it's a really important subject. I feel as if a leader understands their shadow, their dark side, then they're much more able to be authentic in their power.